Hi, my name is Martin Perhiniak. In this tutorial I'm going to talk about how to work with vector masks. Most Photoshop users first learn how to use pixel masks, but we also have another option which can be even more professional to use, which is called vector mask. If you go to the masks panel, on the top far right you can see add a vector mask icon, and to the left of it there's the pixel mask option. Now whenever you make a selection in Photoshop, you can turn that selection into a mask. Let me just make a quick selection like this one here, like a frame, and if I click on pixel mask in the masks panel, it will turn it into a mask for the selected layer. If I use an adjustment layer with the selection, then my selection will be turned into the mask of the adjustment layer. So let me just go back one more step now. I have still the selection, and I go to the adjustments panel and I choose black and white adjustment layer. That will turn the selected part into black and white. If I want to, I can still go to the masks panel and change the settings for this mask, because as you can see here in the layers panel, now the selection is saved as a raster or pixel mask for the adjustment layer. I can always click on invert to invert the colors of the mask, because in a mask, white shows, black hides. So in this case now, black hides the black and white adjustment, which is visible here in the middle, so we see the original colors. Now the only problem with the pixel mask is that it's based on pixels, and pixels are resolution dependent. So if I start to change the size of the image, I will lose quality on the edges of the mask. If I use an elliptical selection, so let me just delete this one now, I can easily show you what I mean. So let me just create an elliptical selection somewhere here on the image. Okay, I go to adjustments panel and I choose again the same adjustment, black and white, and then I invert my mask with a keyboard shortcut Command or Control I. Now I use the free transform tool, edit free transform, to resize this mask, and I hold down shift just to make it or to constrain the proportions of the resize, something like this, and then I press enter. And maybe I make it small again, something like this, and then I make it large again. So now if I zoom closer to the edges of my selection, you will be able to see that we lost the quality. If I press enter and I alt click on the mask, you can see what I mean. So the edges will show that whenever we change the size of a mask or a layer which uses a mask, because a pixel mask is similar to a pixel image, it will also lose quality with the size changes. It's easy to work with a pixel mask, but that is a big disadvantage. So what can we do then? We can use a vector mask instead. So let me just delete this now. And first, I just show you a similar way to start creating a vector mask. I just draw an ellipse again, and I go to masks, and instead of choosing pixel mask, I choose vector mask. But as you can see, the vector mask will be empty because the selection cannot be turned into a vector mask. You need to do another step before using the vector mask option. So let me just go back. So I have the selection, and before I choosing vector mask option, I go to the paths panel and I click on this option called make work path from selection. So now my selection is turned into a path, and I select it with the black arrow, which is called the path selection tool. And after that, I can now click on the vector mask option. But the problem is that if you use a selection that is also based on pixels, so again, this is a vector, but not the best way to do a vector. So I again go back a couple of steps, and instead of making a selection, I go to the vector shape tools and I choose ellipse tool, and that is a vector tool. But here on the top, instead of choosing vector shape layers, I'm going to choose the second option called paths. So I select that one and I hold down shift to draw a perfect circle. And now this is a proper path. I can select it with the selection tool, and you can see we only have 4 anchor points. So that's a great foundation for our vector mask. Now I just simply need to click on vector mask. And the mask is created from this path. Now I can still use this on a black and white adjustment layer. I just simply need to go back to adjustment, choose black and white, and I go to my layers, and here you can see that we have the image with a vector mask and the black and white adjustment with a pixel mask which is empty. I right click on that pixel mask and I delete it because it's unnecessary to have it, and I just simply click on the vector mask and drag and drop it onto the black and white adjustment layer. That way I could use the vector mask for the adjustment layer instead of having it on the image and affecting the visibility. And if I now select the vector mask, this little thumbnail here, and use the selection tool to also select the path, I can still change the black and white effect. Similar to inverting a pixel mask, here on the top you can change the 2 options. You can choose subtract, or you can choose the first one, the add to shape area. This is the same way as inverting the colors of a pixel mask. The advantage of a vector mask is also that you can draw as many vector shapes into one vector mask. You just need to make sure here on the top, whenever you draw vector shapes, you choose, instead of create new shape layer, one of these other options, which will keep the new shape in the selected vector mask. So if I choose add to shape, and I draw another ellipse, and it will be another shape on the same mask, I just need to select it and choose the option that I need. In this case, I need to choose subtract. But I can even copy these vector shapes, so I can select one path, hold down Alt, and drag and drop another one. So I can easily copy and paste them like this. And I can even change their behavior later on. So here I have 2 ellipses on top of each other, and I have the small one selected in the middle, and I can change it back to the original option, and then it turns again to black and white. So you have full control over them, and they are completely resolution independent. Now what if, for example, if I want to have a very precise mask around this building? By the way, this building is in Newcastle. So I want to have a selection around the building, and I only want to see the colors on the building and everything else in black and white. Of course we can do that. I just delete these shapes and I choose vector mask contents only. I just press backspace on the keyboard, and from the options I choose vector mask contents only. So I keep the black and white adjustment layer, and also I keep the vector mask itself. But now it's empty, so I need to create something on it. I need to draw a path. For that, I'm going to select the pen tool. So I select the pen tool. And if you don't know how to work with the pen tool, I suggest to watch the episode in the Photoshop Basics series here on Psdtuts Plus, which is about how to use the pen tool. And also, if you're not familiar with masking, there is also several tutorials about masking, so you can also watch those. But now I'm going to zoom a bit closer, and I start drawing with the pen tool. I start from this corner, I click, and then I click and drag to follow the lines of the building. First it will turn to black and white, but as we know, we will be able to change it back. So I just try to use the least amount of anchor points on this building. And as you can see, I always click in the corner points, and I try to follow these wavy lines as close as possible. And for shapes, objects, whenever you need to select objects where you have curved lines or straight lines, most of the objects, by the way, are made of curved or straight lines. So whenever you have objects to select like this one, it's the best method to use the pen tool, because with that tool you can create really nice selections. Let me just go back here, and I want to make this even more precise. I zoom a bit closer, and the resolution of the image is not the best, but still I try to do a good selection here. Okay, I zoom out a bit, and I continue here with a curved line and then a straight line. Here at the bottom it's enough if we just simply make a straight selection. Then I continue doing it here, following the lines of the building, and not much left now. I just continue with the wavy lines, continue. Try to use only a few of these anchor points. That will keep my lines clean. And that's it. So we have the whole path, and I closed the path. Now we can select the path and change the shape area option here on the top to subtract. And that's what we had to do to get this effect. Now, if you don't want to see that edge around your vector mask, you can just simply select another layer and then it will go away. The other great thing with vector mask is that you can always edit them easily. So if I zoom back, and I remember here maybe I had a bit of edge that I don't like, I can select the vector mask first of all, and then I can use the selection tool and select the mask or the path. Yeah, here this one is a bit too sharp for me, so I'm going to use the direct selection tool and select that point. And I can see that I only have a handle in one direction, but I would like to have a handle in the other direction as well. So I will now switch to the pen tool, and holding down the Alt key, I can click on this point and I can create two handle points. First, I concentrate on this side of the selection. So that's a nice line here, but I need to move this other handle point into place now. So I switch back to the direct selection tool, and I just click on that handle point and drag it back into place like this. So now I have handle points in both directions, and that makes a nice and clean transition between the two segments of the curve. And I can always adjust it later on if I want to. You can be really creative with vector masks, and you can use it for lots of different things. Just as a preview, I show you an image where I used vector masks for all these elements. I can show you the original image. This is the original photograph, and then this is the edit that I did, mainly using vector masks together with the CS5 Repoussé 3D option. If you want to know how I created this effect, make sure you come back later, because here on Psdtuts Plus, you will be able to learn this in my Digital Art for Beginners series. Thanks a lot for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and good luck with using vector masks.